On January the 1st, 2018, Nigerians were served a reminder that Boko Haram is no longer the country's biggest internal security threat, as suspected herdsmen carrying AK-47 attacked 6 communities in 2 local government areas of Benue and killed more than 50 people.
Now, the killings have continued and even spread to other states, especially in the north-central region of the country, despite several moves by the federal government to put it to an end. Now, seeming to be out of ideas on how to tackle the security problem, the presidency has now gone on a blame game, accusing the opposition of fueling the crisis. The government says lack of cooperation from the opposition and scaremongering tactics that they have employed is part of the reasons efforts to stem the killings in the affected region have failed.
Now, the APC-led administration accused the PDP of using the security situation in the country as a political tool to set the tone of the 2019 election and sway the minds of voters. Now, the PDP, in response to the accusation, has labeled the Buhari-led administration as completely confused and incompetent. But while both parties engage in a war of words, the bloodletting in the Benue, Taraba state and other keeps getting worse. Just yesterday morning, the daredevil bandits attacked a Catholic church in Benue State, killed 15 people and burned down over 35 houses. Now, we'll get into our discussion shortly, but let's go on a short break and then Okay, I think sometimes we get messages that are conflicting from the directors in there. But
yes,
however, let's get
fine.
into our discussion proper now. We have the Executive Director, journalist for Democratic Rights, Adewale Adeoye, with us in the studio. Adewale, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. See you.
Yes. We just, part of this was what we just finished discussing with the presidential spokesman now on this continuous killings here and there. But it gets to a level where when somebody says, don't politicize anything that happened to anyone as far as it's a life or a security of a human being, and then we hear the same persons or people say that it is the other political parties that, you know, that are trying to compound the issue by either blowing it out of proportion or not cooperating. How do we reconcile this?
Well, I think it's a very unfortunate thing that the killings all over the country, you know, is yet to subside. The actors are getting more daring. The discussion between the 2 political parties, the main political parties, PDP and APC, the blame game, I think it has to do with the fact that there's no national consensus. There's no lowest common factor on our values and our heritage. Because if there is national consensus, the issue of killing that should have been, you know, a kind of consensus from both parties on what has to be done. It has nothing to do with whether it's APC that is in power or PDP. Yeah. We are talking about the life of Nigerians that are being killed every day. We are talking about instability. So, but what we find ourselves is that political parties are trying to feast on this crisis for electoral harvest, which is quite unfortunate. We will have expected the PDP to come out with a roadmap. Okay, the APC, you have not been able to address this issue. These are the things we think you can do to tackle these problems. Instead of just, engaging in, people should be talking about, they should be brainstorming on the solution, not blamestorming. So what the 2 parties are doing is, they're just trying to blame each other. And it shows that they are less interested about the lives of human beings. They are more interested about elections, about power and politics.
So in other words, they're not seeing this, both sides, they're not seeing this as a national problem.
Yeah.
But one side is seeing it as a real problem that is making my party, my government look bad, while the other side is looking at it from the point of view of, yes, this is good for them, to show that they're not succeeding, at least in delivering on the promise of security.
Sure.
But the point is, who really is to blame? Who is to blame for these incessant herdsmen killings? Mr. Femi Adesina just said something there, that there's more to this than meets the eye.
Well,
there's some kind of sinister motive.
Yeah.
On one hand, we've heard there is collusion. Some are saying, no, this is there's a grand agenda. Some are saying, no, it's Gaddafi's men who who really or what is to blame?
There's nothing Mr. Adeoye said now that is new. It's the same old rhetorics. And I think most Nigerians are tired of saying, you know, they are from Libya. What Nigerians want is solution. Unfortunately for Nigerians, they are helpless. We are journalists, we are people on the street. They don't have the solution. It is people that have been elected who control the institutions of cohesion and power, security institutions, that are expected to tackle this problem. Another man on the street cannot do anything. But the president of the country has been elected to give hope where there is despair to Nigerians, to secure them, you know, from violence, from insecurity. So it is the responsibility of those that are in power, the president, the minister of interior, the defense minister, the police IG, to find a solution to this, and of course the parliament, because I mean there are institutions that should be responsible for securing human lives. So they should stop blaming people from Libya, people from Chad. We know they could be, they probably are actually from Cameroon, but or maybe they are from Ghana. But what we want is solution. What do you want to do about it? If they are foreigner, then that's foreigner, you know, that's foreign aggression on the on the sovereignty of Nigeria. And we expect the army, the police to work out a roadmap to tackle this problem. I think we are tired of just saying, trying to shift this blame. We want Nigerians to be given a sense of hope. We want the leaders to inspire us and to give us a sense of security that there's going to be a stop to these killings.
Now, the people, or from all the comments we have heard from people, especially in the middle belt when we speak with people around there, is the government doesn't seem to be decisive. The body language of the government doesn't give confidence. And this is making a lot of people to begin to think that it is time for us to take our own security, our own destiny, our own lives and all of that into our own hands. How chaotic will that kind of situation be if the people begin to take the responsibility of securing themselves by themselves?
Well, the police and other security agencies, legally they are supposed to provide, I mean, to defend the people.
Ideally.
Ideally. But when you find yourself in a situation where armed robbers are attacking, you know, communities every day, or armed gangs, the natural law is that people need to defend themselves. You know, if you are going on the street and anybody attacks you, naturally the instinct is to defend yourself, even among animals. If you want to attack a crocodile, the first thing is that the crocodile, you know, pounces on you. So it's natural that when people find themselves in a situation of hopelessness, where the state finds it difficult to provide the necessary security for them, naturally they will resort to self-defense, which is quite unfortunate. And we need to alert the government that what is going on is very dangerous. It's going to lead to political instability, which may actually consume the political class. It's going to lead to economic misfortunes, because no investor wants to come to an environment where there is chaos, where there are killings. And it may also prop up a new arms race as parties contend to, you know, to source arms to prosecute the war. So the Nigerian government must realize that this is a very major challenge we are having. And of course, there is the potential that this crisis can polarize security you know, operatives along ethnic and religious lines.
Well, is that not even happening
It's happening
already?
now. Because if you happen to be a soldier and your community is being attacked, or you are a Christian and your faith is being attacked, there is tendency that, you know, your loyalty to the Nigerian state will be in doubt.
And the Middle Belt Forum, let me quickly comment, says it's considering what it calls a pogrom. It's giving it a name. That this is a pogrom. Some are saying it is ethnic cleansing. Some are saying it's genocide. And they are saying, look, we're ready to go to the International Criminal Court to get some kind of justice. What do we really have on our hands? What is going on? Is it beyond herdsmen clashes? Of course, the Agric Minister, Adewale, has said it could get worse by 2019 if we don't ranch. So, what is the way forward?
Well, I think
if we're able to determine first of what it is we're battling.
Well, I think it's a very complex problem, and it has series, you know, of a lot of dimension. You have the herdsmen that are there. You have armed banditry, people that are just criminals. You also have people that want to engage in ethnic cleansing. Then you also have religious extremists. So it's a combination of these that has, you know, led to a situation where you have Benue State being isolated, in fact, the entire Middle Belt being isolated for consistent attacks. But no matter the nature and form of this crisis, the government is in a position, if they have a very good, if there is no failure of intelligence, to be able to understand the character of this crisis and realize the way they have to tackle it. Because if people are armed, the normal thing you can do is to ensure that you trace the source of weapons and then you block it. You trace the source of funds and then you block it. If they are being sponsored by politicians, like we are being told, you identify those political figures, isolate them, arrest them, and prosecute them. But for the fact that you are telling us that they are being sponsored by some political interests, and it means you know them. Then what are you doing about it? Because if you don't tackle this problem at the right time, we should remember what happened in Somalia, in Rwanda, and all that. You know, it's better to nip it in the bud before it gets out of hand. So I think the Benue people are justified. If there's no justice, they can't get justice within the Nigerian legal framework. Of course, they have to seek, you know, justice within the framework of international conventions by going to the United Nations and other, you know, global institutions to, you know, to table their grievances.
Oh, talking about herdsmen, we heard reports and even watched some of the videos from Ghana where the president met with herdsmen, and they created forum where they talked about all of these things, and decisive steps were taken, and normalcy has been restored in Ghana. So do we liken this to the government not taking the right direction, or still trying to assess? Because when you tell Nigerians we're still trying to assess the situation, we're still trying to find out
what it is exactly.
If government doesn't know, then who else will know?
Well, I think the problem, you know, we have to blame the government, because at the initial stage, there were utterances of people in government that put us in kind of difficult situation. You know, the government was talking about grazing right, that is, there was no going back on grazing right, even for communities where they don't, you know, raise cow. So I think if you want to talk about ranching, grazing, it should be restricted to states where the civilization allows such things to happen. Not in places where their civilization does not actually allow such things to happen. If you are not careful, if you continue to allow that to happen, you are going to have a clash of civilization. And if the government wants to dissolve itself, you know, as a party to the dispute, you know, and becomes also part of the problem. So the government ab initio has made utterances that shows that the government is partisan. The government wants to support grazing. It doesn't want to bend backwards. And there are some communities that are saying that, look, we don't want grazing on our territories. You know, Borno, Kano, they have enough land. If you want to do grazing, ranching, go to those areas and leave communities that are tropical forests, you know, to tackle the problem of agriculture in their own
Speaking of partisanship, the Nigerian military has been indicted too, and there are calls for restructuring of Nigeria's security architecture. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Adewale Adeoye, Executive Director, Journalist for Democratic Rights. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.